Who knew Elvis Presley best? Many point to this man, Billy Smith. He wasn't just staff, he was family. Billy was Elvis's first cousin, growing up alongside him in Tupelo and sharing secrets long before the fame. He remained a core member of the Memphis Mafia and was one of the few people Elvis consistently kept close, especially during his final years. Billy was present at Graceland on the day Elvis passed away. Today, he and his wife Jo share their personal memories, offering a unique and unfiltered glimpse into the private life of the king. Even the king of rock and roll needed a vacation. In May 1969, Elvis sought refuge in Honolulu, Hawaii. To avoid the press, he booked the trip under an alias, Dr. John Carpenter, the name of his character from the movie Change of Habit. This photo captures a rare, candid moment during that getaway. While walking on a remote beach on the east coast of Oahu, Elvis had a chance encounter with a fan, identified as Miss Rosenthien. It's a quiet snapshot of Elvis enjoying a moment of peace just before his triumphant return to live performing. This wasn't an award for music, it was an award for character. Here, Elvis Presley stands with his wife, Priscilla, at a special luncheon at the Holiday Inn Rivermont on January 16, 1971. He was in Memphis to be honored by the United States Jaycees as one of the 10 outstanding young men in America. This prestigious award recognized his philanthropic efforts and his embodiment of the American dream. Elvis was deeply moved by this honor, considering it one of the greatest achievements of his life. He delivered a humble speech, famously quoting lyrics, "Without a song, the day would never end." This backstage image from June 21, 1977, in Rapid City, South Dakota, tells a difficult story. Elvis appears visibly unwell and exhausted. This was just 9 years after his legendary 1968 comeback special, where he looked vital and strong. By 1977, the grueling demands of constant touring had taken a severe toll on his health. Despite his condition, he went on stage that night and performed for his fans. This concert was professionally recorded and filmed for what would become his final television special, Elvis in Concert, offering a powerful but somber look at the superstar near his end. Who was Elvis Presley before the world truly knew him? In 1956, journalist Sidney Fields visited Elvis's home on Audubon Drive to find out. Elvis was in Hollywood filming Love Me Tender, so Fields interviewed his parents, Vernon and Gladys. Gladys proudly showed him Elvis's bedroom, which was filled with stuffed animals. She explained that Vernon had taught Elvis to win them at carnival target shooting games, a hobby he still loved. The Presleys spoke of their humble beginnings and how Elvis promised to care for them. Fields left profoundly impressed, writing that the family was simple, good neighbors, unaffected by the fame. We recognize Elvis for his jet black hair and striking blue eyes, but one of those features wasn't natural. Elvis was actually born a natural blonde. He began dyeing his hair black early in his career to create a more dramatic look, inspired by comic book heroes. However, his blue eyes were all his own. This photo, or one like it, sparked curiosity because his eyes appeared darker. This look was intentional for a movie role. In the 1960 film Flaming Star, Elvis played a character of mixed heritage. To make his appearance more convincing for the role, he temporarily wore brown-colored contact lenses. During his army service in Germany, Elvis's life wasn't just about military duties. He met 19-year-old Elizabeth Stefaniak at a base movie theater in 1958. After a few dates, Elvis convinced her parents to let her move into his off-base home to work as his personal secretary. Her primary job was managing the massive amounts of fan mail he received. Their professional arrangement also included a private, personal relationship. When Elvis was discharged in 1960, Elizabeth returned to Memphis with him to continue her role at Graceland. She later married Rex Mansfield, another soldier who was Elvis's close friend. This somber photograph captures a personal moment for Elvis and his final girlfriend, Ginger Alden. Taken on January 3, 1977, the image shows them in Harrison, Arkansas. They were there to attend the funeral of Ginger's grandfather. Elvis made the trip to support her and her family during their time of loss. This was just 7 months before Elvis's own passing. Ginger, who was only 20 years old, had been with Elvis since late 1976. This photo provides a rare glimpse into their private relationship, away from the stage, showing a moment of shared grief and mutual support. By 1974, Elvis Presley was a constant presence on the road, bringing his stadium-sized show to cities across America. This photo captures him on May 12, 1974, as he arrives in Fresno, California. He was in town to perform at the Celland Arena for an audience of over 7,000 enthusiastic fans. This show was part of a demanding West Coast tour. In this candid shot, you can see the style of the mid-70s, with Elvis wearing one of his signature high-collar shirts and large sunglasses. It's a snapshot of the non-stop motion that defined his life during this period. This image captures a meeting of two American icons, Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley. Taken on June 18, 1965, the two legends are seen sharing a joke for press photographers in Hollywood. The moment was captured on the set of Sinatra's film, Marriage on the Rocks. Elvis had stopped by the studio during a break from his own movie, Frankie and Johnny. This friendly meeting was notable because Sinatra had famously criticized rock and roll years earlier. By 1965, their relationship had warmed, especially after Elvis appeared on Sinatra's 1960 television special, signaling a mutual respect between them. Before he became a national sensation, a 21-year-old Elvis Presley was building his audience one TV appearance at a time. This image captures him in 1956 with country music host Jimmy Dean on Washington, D.C.'s WMAL-TV. At this point, Elvis was just on the cusp of exploding. In fact, this appearance on The Jimmy Dean Show took place before his infamous hip-swiveling performance on The Milton Berle Show. Dean, already a star, treated Elvis with respect, interviewing him and letting him perform Heartbreak Hotel. It was a key step in introducing the future king to a wider audience. Hawaii held a special place in Elvis's heart, and his connection to the islands began long before his famous movies. This photo shows a young Gorgon Bailey presenting Elvis with a traditional lei during his very first visit in 1957. He was there to perform 3 concerts, including one at Honolulu Stadium. This warm welcome marked the start of a lifelong love affair with Hawaiian culture and its people. Gordian herself would later reconnect with Elvis, appearing as a prominent hula dancer in his 1961 blockbuster film Blue Hawaii. It's a wonderful full-circle moment captured here. By 1969, Elvis was winding down his Hollywood movie career. This image is from one of his final scripted films, The Trouble with Girls. In a unique role, Elvis played Walter Hale, the manager of a traveling Chautauqua show set in the 1920s. This period piece comedy was a significant departure from his usual formulaic musicals. Released just after his '68 comeback special, the film unfortunately failed to find a large audience. However, it remains a fascinating watch for fans, showcasing Elvis in a different light and featuring a strong performance, including the song "Clean Up Your Own Backyard." This striking photo captures Elvis and Priscilla Presley during a private trip to Las Vegas in May 1971. While Elvis had already re-established his dominance in the city with his residency, this visit was purely for pleasure. They were likely in town to celebrate Priscilla's 26th birthday, which falls on May 24th. Even on vacation, they embodied glamour, with Elvis in a high-collared suit and Priscilla looking every bit the fashion icon. These personal moments in Vegas, away from his demanding performance schedule, were rare. This image provides a glimpse of their life as a couple. The year 1958 marked the single biggest interruption of Elvis's career, his induction into the U.S. Army. This photo shows a newly uniformed Private Presley with friends during a moment of downtime. After being processed at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, he was sent to Fort Hood, Texas for basic training. During this period, he was allowed off-base housing and was frequently visited by family and his closest friends, like those seen here. It was a bizarre time, as the biggest star in the world was suddenly forced to live the life of an ordinary soldier. These visits were a vital link. This is the arrival that cemented a landmark in pop culture. In 1961, Elvis Presley checks into the iconic Coco Palms Resort on the island of Kauai. He was there to film Blue Hawaii, the movie that would define the fun and the sun formula for his 1960s career. The resort itself became a co-star, most famously as the setting for the film's romantic climax where Elvis sings the Hawaiian wedding song while floating down the lagoon. Thanks to this film, the Coco Palms became a legendary destination, with fans flocking there for decades to see where the king stayed. The International Hotel in Las Vegas was Elvis's kingdom. This 1970 photograph captures him during one of his legendary residencies that redefined live entertainment. After his 1969 comeback, 1970 was the year he perfected his stage persona. It was during this engagement that he introduced his iconic concho and fringe-laden jumpsuits, moving away from the simple black leather of '68. These shows were filmed for the acclaimed documentary Elvis, That's the Way It Is, showcasing him at his vocal and physical peak, backed by the TCB band and a full orchestra. He wasn't just a singer, he was a phenomenon. In his 31st and final feature film, Change of Habit, Elvis took on one of his most serious roles. He played Dr. John Carpenter, a physician running a clinic in an inner-city neighborhood. The film tackled surprisingly gritty themes for an Elvis movie. This photo shows him taking a break during location filming at Glassman's Market in Hollywood, posing with an actual employee of the store. This on-location shooting added a layer of realism rarely seen in his films. Co-starring Mary Tyler Moore, this movie marked the end of his Hollywood contract and his shift back to live music. This is the look of a man betting his entire career. This press conference, held on June 25, 1968, was to promote his upcoming NBC television special. After years of making formulaic movies, Elvis was seen as irrelevant. His manager wanted a safe, traditional Christmas special, but Elvis and director Steve Binder had other plans. They wanted to remind the world who he was. Just days after this photo, Elvis would film the raw, intimate sit-down segments, reuniting with his original band. The resulting '68 comeback special is now considered one of the greatest moments in music history. While filming The Trouble with Girls in 1968, Elvis found a great creative partner in his co-star, Marlon Mason. She played the intelligent and feisty Charlene, who constantly challenged Elvis's character, Walter Hale. This playful, off-camera photo perfectly captures the genuine chemistry they shared. Mason has often recalled how professional and funny Elvis was on set, calling him a fabulous person to work with. Their dynamic was a highlight of the film, a 1920s-era musical comedy that was a unique entry in his filmography. This candid moment shows the real person behind the persona. Even as a GI, Elvis didn't live in the barracks for long. This rare photo shows him at his rented home in Killeen, Texas, during the summer of 1958. Elvis was stationed at nearby Fort Hood for basic training. To maintain some sense of family and normalcy, he rented a modest house where his parents, Vernon and Gladys, and his grandmother Minnie May could live with him. These few months were precious, as they were the last he would spend with his mother. Gladys was in poor health and would pass away in August, just after he started his training. In 1957, Elvis wasn't just conquering America, he was going international. This photo is from his performance at the Ottawa Auditorium in Canada on April 3, 1957. It was one of his first ever concerts outside the United States. The show was met with massive hysteria, both from fans and from worried officials. The local press debated whether his vulgar movements should be allowed, and a heavy police presence was on hand, ready for a riot. Elvis delivered 2 sold-out shows that day, proving his appeal crossed borders and solidifying his status as a global phenomenon. This candid shot from May 31, 1971 shows Elvis outside his Beverly Hills home at 1174 Hillcrest Road. This mansion was his primary base in California, purchased in 1967. This photo was taken just after he and Priscilla had returned from a private vacation in Las Vegas, where they celebrated her 26th birthday. 1971 was a significant year for Elvis. He had recently been honored as one of the 10 outstanding young men in America. This image captures him in a moment of transition, balancing his private life as a husband with his public status as a global icon. The Memphis Mafia was famously an all-male entourage, with one notable exception, Patti Perry. She met Elvis in Los Angeles in 1960 and quickly became a trusted friend and honorary kid sister. A talented hairstylist, Patti was often called upon to cut Elvis's hair, and she even styled Priscilla's for a time. Her most famous work was seen by over 1 billion people. In 1973, Elvis flew her to Honolulu to do a final touch-up on his hair just before he went live for the Aloha from Hawaii satellite broadcast, ensuring the king looked perfect for history. Despite the film's title, Elvis never actually set foot in Acapulco, Mexico for the 1963 movie Fun in Acapulco. All of his scenes were filmed on a Hollywood soundstage. The movie followed Elvis as a former trapeze artist working as a lifeguard, who must overcome his fear of heights to perform a dramatic cliff dive. For that famous 136-foot plunge, a local professional diver was used as his body double. The film was a huge box office success, co-starring Bond girl Ursula Andress, and its soundtrack remains one of his most popular from the era. This publicity shoot captures the moment Elvis Presley transitioned from music star to movie star. This was for his 1956 cinematic debut, Love Me Tender. Originally, the film was a dramatic western called The Reno Brothers, and Elvis was cast in a supporting role. However, when his recording of the title song, Love Me Tender, became a smash hit before the movie was released, the studio panicked. They quickly renamed the film to match the song and elevated Elvis to top billing. His dramatic death scene at the end shocked his young fans, who were not prepared to see their hero die. This photo captures Elvis in a rare moment of downtime at his Beverly Hills home on Hillcrest Drive. The date is November 10, 1968. At this exact moment, his legendary comeback special had been filmed but had not yet aired. It was set to broadcast in just a few weeks on December 3rd. This was a period of intense anticipation for Elvis. He had put his entire career on the line, and now he was waiting to see if the world was ready to accept him as a relevant artist again. He was also likely preparing for his next film, Charo. Before Priscilla, there was Anita Wood. This photo from May 1958 shows Private Elvis Presley with his girlfriend, Anita, in Waco, Texas. He was stationed at nearby Fort Hood for Army training. Anita, a popular Memphis TV personality, was Elvis's steady girlfriend at the time. She moved to Killeen, Texas to be with him, living in his rented house along with his parents. Their relationship was serious, and many assumed they would one day marry. This image captures a rare, normal moment in his highly abnormal life, just before he was sent to Germany. After 2 long years in Germany, the sergeant was home. This photo is from Elvis's first press conference back on American soil, held at Graceland on March 7, 1960. Just days earlier, he had been honorably discharged from the U.S. Army. The press was eager to know his next move. Would the Army have changed him? Was rock and roll over? Elvis, looking mature and confident in his civilian clothes, announced his plans, including an upcoming television appearance on Frank Sinatra's show. This event marked the official beginning of the movie era and the second phase of his monumental career. This classic image comes from the set of Elvis's 1962 blockbuster, Girls, Girls, Girls. In the film, he played Ross Carpenter, a sailor and fishing guide who loves his boat and, of course, the girls. The movie was a massive commercial success and is remembered for spawning one of his biggest hits of the decade. This very scene, with Elvis on a motor scooter, is from the musical number for Return to Sender. The song became an instant classic and helped propel the film's soundtrack to the top of the charts, cementing the formula for his 1960s movie career. This photograph, taken on March 19, 1958, captures one of Elvis's last days as a civilian before his life changed forever. Just 5 days later, he would report for duty and be inducted into the U.S. Army. Here, he is seen doing what he loved, greeting fans at the gates of his Graceland home. Despite his immense fame, he remained accessible to his admirers. This period was filled with uncertainty. He was the biggest star in the world, and he was about to disappear from the public eye for 2 years, not knowing if his career would survive. In 1962, Elvis headed to Washington to film It Happened at the World's Fair. The movie was set against the backdrop of the real-life Century 21 exposition in Seattle. This photo shows Elvis during a break in filming on the actual fairgrounds, with the iconic Space Needle often visible. The film is a fan favorite, but it's most famous today for a small, uncredited role. In one scene, Elvis pays a young boy to kick him in the shin. That boy was actor Kurt Russell, making his very first motion picture appearance. Russell would later go on to play Elvis. This casual-looking photo of Elvis in his driveway, taken on June 2, 1958, became one of his most important album covers. He was home on leave from basic training at Fort Hood. A year later, in 1959, RCA Victor needed to release an album to keep his fans engaged while he was stationed in Germany. They compiled a collection of unreleased songs and titled it A Date with Elvis. This very image was used for the cover. It was a clever marketing move, showing Elvis not as a soldier, but as the cool, rebellious star his fans were anxiously waiting to return. Fans watching 1962's Follow That Dream might have done a double take. For this role, Elvis temporarily abandoned his iconic jet black hair. He was born a natural blonde, and to better portray the simple, backwoods character Toby Quimper, he dyed his hair a much lighter sandy blonde. This photo was taken during filming in the intense summer heat of Ocala, Florida in 1961. The film was a light-hearted comedy about a homesteading family, and it showcased a different, more comedic side of Elvis. The hair change was temporary, but it remains a unique look in his filmography. After 2 years of service, Sergeant Elvis Presley was finally going home. This photo captures him at a press conference on March 1, 1960, at his army base in Friedberg, Germany. This was his final day of duty overseas. The international press gathered to ask about his experience as a soldier and what he planned to do next. A noticeably more mature Elvis answered questions politely, thanking the army and the people of Germany. Just hours later, he would board a plane back to the United States, ready to resume his career and begin a new decade of stardom. This is the rehearsal for the performance that changed everything. On June 4, 1956, Elvis prepared for his second appearance on The Milton Berle Show. He was about to perform a new song, Hound Dog. In this rehearsal, he looks relaxed, but the performance that followed would ignite a national firestorm. His slow, grinding, and defiant version of the song sent the press and cultural critics into a frenzy. They called him Elvis the Pelvis and labeled his act vulgar and indecent. That one performance cemented his status as a symbol of youth rebellion. This is the moment Elvis officially returned to the United States. On March 3, 1960, his military transport plane landed at McGuire Air Force Base, and he was taken to nearby Fort Dix, New Jersey. He had just flown in from Germany, where he had completed his 2-year Army service. At Fort Dix, he held a press conference and went through his final discharge processing. A few days later, he would be officially honorably discharged and would board a train for a triumphant, emotional return home to Memphis. This photo captures the very end of his army career. The king had returned to his castle. This photo from March 1960 shows a triumphant Elvis Presley back at Graceland, greeting the massive crowds of fans who had gathered for his homecoming. He had just returned from his 2-year military service in Germany. Arriving by train, he was met with absolute hysteria in Memphis. Back at the Graceland gates, a place he always felt comfortable, he reconnected with his fans. He was now a 25-year-old man, more mature, but still the idol of millions. This moment kicked off the second act of his career. This photo captures one of the most famous haircuts in history. On March 25, 1958, the day after his induction, Private Elvis Presley sat in the barber shop at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. The U.S. Army had invited the media to watch as his world-famous hair, the symbol of his rebellion, was given a standard GI buzz cut. It was a massive publicity event, signaling that not even the king of rock and roll was above his duty. This image of him, hair shorn, shocked his fans worldwide and marked the official visual start of his 2-year Army career. This snapshot from March 19, 1958, shows Elvis at Graceland with a friend, just 5 days before he was inducted into the U.S. Army. This was a tense period of hurry up and wait. He had received his draft notice in December and was now spending his final hours of freedom surrounded by his close circle of friends, known as the Memphis Mafia. These friends provided a wall of support as he faced an unknown future. He was at the absolute peak of his fame, and this impending 2-year absence from the spotlight was a gamble that no one was sure he would win. In 1956, Elvis Presley was exploding into the biggest name in music, and this photo captures him in his new element. He is seen here at his home on Audubon Drive in Memphis. This was the first house he purchased with his newfound wealth, a symbol that he had made it. But the home quickly became a tourist attraction, with fans overwhelming the neighborhood. This image, likely from the famous series by photographer Alfred Wertheimer, shows a rare, intimate moment of the 21-year-old star, still grounded, surrounded by family and friends, just before the level of fame that would require Graceland. This iconic mugshot was part of the promotional photo shoot for Elvis's third movie, 1957's Jailhouse Rock. In the film, he played Vince Everett, a young man convicted of manslaughter who discovers his musical talent while in prison. The movie was a massive hit, but it's most famous for its title song's production number. That groundbreaking sequence, choreographed by Elvis himself, is now regarded as one of the first and most influential music videos of all time. This tough, defiant image perfectly captured the rebellious energy that made Elvis a cultural icon. This photo captures a rare private moment. Elvis and Priscilla Presley are seen on a flight from Hawaii back to Los Angeles on June 2, 1968. This trip was a significant one. It was their first major vacation since the birth of their daughter, Lisa Marie, 4 months earlier. They were returning to California so Elvis could begin one of the most important projects of his life, preparing for his NBC television special. This was the last moment of quiet and relaxation before the intense rehearsals that would lead to his comeback and the complete revitalization of his career. In March 1977, just 5 months before his passing, Elvis took his final vacation, returning to his beloved Hawaii. He traveled with his girlfriend, Ginger Alden, his cousin Billy Smith, and other close friends. Despite his declining health, he tried to enjoy himself. Photos from this trip show him relaxing on the beach, riding three-wheelers, and playing touch football with his friends. It was a brief escape from the pressures of touring and his complex life. This trip was his last visit to the islands that had brought him so much happiness, from his 1957 concerts to the Aloha from Hawaii special. When Private Elvis Presley first arrived for his army duty in Germany, he needed a place to stay. This photo shows him at Ritter's Park Hotel in Bad Homburg, where he stayed from October 4th to 6th, 1958. He had just arrived at his new base in Friedberg. This hotel served as his temporary home, while his father, Vernon, and grandmother looked for permanent off-base housing. They soon found a house in the nearby town of Bad Nauheim, which would become Elvis's home for the next 18 months. This image captures the very beginning of his European chapter. No matter how big he got, Elvis rarely missed a chance to connect with his fans. This photo, likely from January 23, 1974, shows him signing autographs upon his arrival in Las Vegas. He was in town to open his latest engagement at the Las Vegas Hilton, which was set to begin in just 3 days. Even though he was there for intense rehearsals, he took time on the tarmac to greet the loyal fans who had come to welcome him. This gesture was typical of Elvis. He genuinely appreciated his audience and understood that they were the foundation of his success. By 1971, Elvis's stage wear had evolved into the iconic jumpsuit. This specific creation is known as the turquoise concho suit, named for the striking silver and turquoise discs that adorn it. This was an exclusive outfit. According to records, this jumpsuit was never worn on a national tour. Its appearances were reserved strictly for his engagements in Las Vegas, though it may have also been worn in Lake Tahoe. The intricate belt was later repurposed, appearing with the white turquoise concho two-piece suit during his 1972 Vegas shows. It's a prime example of his elaborate stage style. This photo shows Elvis with a man who helped create his image, Bernard Lansky. Lansky and his brother ran the Lansky Brothers clothing store on Beale Street in Memphis. When Elvis was a young, unknown teenager, he would stare at their flashy window displays. Bernard famously told him, "Come on in," and offered him credit, long before he had any money. Elvis never forgot that kindness. He bought his iconic 1950s cat clothes from Lansky's and remained a loyal customer his entire life. Bernard Lansky became known as the Clothier to the King, a partnership that defined an era. It's opening night in Las Vegas, January 26, 1974, and the energy backstage is electric. This photo captures Elvis just moments before he steps on stage at the Las Vegas Hilton. He is seen here with a group of lucky fans and the well-known photographer Sean Shaver. Shaver was one of the few photographers who gained incredible access to Elvis during the 1970s, capturing many of his most iconic concert moments. This image is a perfect example of Elvis's pre-show ritual, graciously giving time to his admirers, even in the final high-pressure minutes before a performance. This image shows 22-year-old Elvis with 19-year-old actress Dolores Hart in his second film, Loving You. Released in 1957, this was his first movie in a true starring role and his first in Technicolor. The film is famous for the hit song, "Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear." This pairing is also historically significant, as Dolores Hart was the actress who gave Elvis his very first on-screen kiss. Their chemistry was evident, but Hart's life took a dramatic turn. Just a few years later, in 1963, she shocked Hollywood by abandoning her successful acting career to become a Benedictine nun. The movie that cemented Elvis's 1960s image almost didn't happen. Blue Hawaii became one of his biggest financial successes, defining the travelogue musical formula for the next decade. Here he's pictured with his co-star, Joan Blackman, who played Maley Duval. This was actually their second film together. They had already filmed Kid Galahad, though it was released later. The Blue Hawaii soundtrack was a monster hit, staying at #1 on the charts for 20 consecutive weeks and solidifying Elvis's status as a family-friendly movie star. The film's success became a golden cage for his career. Before the world claimed him, who was Elvis's hometown sweetheart? This is Barbara Hearn, photographed with Elvis in 1956. She was a Memphis native he dated just as Heartbreak Hotel was climbing the charts. Their relationship represents the end of his normal life. While his fame was exploding nationally, Barbara was the girl he brought home and took to local events. She has described him as a polite and humble person, even as the chaos of his celebrity began to build around them. This photo captures a final, innocent moment before he became a global superstar. This photo captures a rare, quiet moment of anticipation. On April 30th, 1967, Elvis and Priscilla are seen at their rented home in Palm Springs. This was the night before their famous wedding. In the early morning hours of May 1st, they would take a private jet, arranged by Frank Sinatra, to Las Vegas. They were married at the Aladdin Hotel in a ceremony that lasted only 8 minutes, organized hastily by Colonel Tom Parker to maximize publicity. This calm, intimate snapshot stands in stark contrast to the whirlwind, press-filled event that would take place just hours later. Don't let the smile fool you. This was a time of immense personal change. This photo, taken in Las Vegas in February 1972, shows Elvis during his engagement at the Hilton. What the audience didn't know was that he had just separated from his wife, Priscilla, weeks earlier. Instead of faltering, he channeled his emotions into his music. It was during this very engagement that he introduced his powerful new anthem, An American Trilogy, which would become a staple of his live shows. This period marked a new, more dramatic phase of his stage performances. The world thought he was finished, but Elvis was planning a revolution. On June 25, 1968, he met the press in Burbank to announce his first ever television special. Sponsored by the Singer Company, everyone expected a safe, family-friendly Christmas show. But Elvis, alongside producer Steve Binder, had other ideas. This press conference was the public-facing start of his legendary comeback. He looked confident, but he was also nervous. This special was his last chance to shed his movie star image and prove he was still a vital, rebellious force in music. The world was about to be reminded. This wasn't just a movie set, it was a new frontier for the king. This 1956 photo shows Elvis on the set of his very first film, Love Me Tender. He was nervous about his acting debut, playing the supporting role of Clint Reno in a serious Western. He reportedly memorized not only his lines, but the entire script, including everyone else's parts, because he was so determined to be taken seriously. Of course, his musical fame overshadowed the film. The studio changed the title to match his hit song and was shocked when fans protested his character's death at the end. Even in an army uniform, he couldn't escape his fans. This rare photo from 1958 was taken while Private Presley was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas for basic training. Although he was living the life of a soldier, he rented a house off base. Local families and the children of other soldiers knew he was there and would often gather, hoping for a glimpse. This image captures him in his new, unexpected role, the world's biggest superstar, reduced to a GI, yet still taking the time to sign autographs and interact with children. It's a surreal snapshot of his time in service. His final feature film paired him with a future television legend. This is Elvis on the set of 1969's Change of Habit with his co-star Jane Elliott. Elliott played one of the 3 nuns, alongside Mary Tyler Moore, who go undercover in his inner-city clinic. For Elliott, this was one of her very first film roles, and she would later become an icon of daytime television, famous for playing Tracy Quartermaine on General Hospital. The film itself was a dramatic departure for Elvis, tackling serious social issues. This snapshot captures him working with a new generation of acting talent. The soldier was home, and Hollywood was calling. This photo captures Elvis on April 18, 1960, during a train journey from Memphis to Hollywood. He had been home from the Army for just over a month. This train ride was a massive publicity event, with thousands of fans gathering at every stop to welcome him back. He was on his way to start production on his first post-service film, GI Blues. The movie was designed to reintroduce him to audiences, blending his recent Army experience with his musical persona. This trip marked the official, triumphant start of his 1960s movie career. This is where the magic was made. In July 1970, cameras rolled at MGM Studios in Culver City to capture Elvis rehearsing for his upcoming Las Vegas engagement. These sessions would become the heart of the acclaimed documentary, Elvis, That's the Way It Is. This photo shows him in a relaxed, creative environment, working tirelessly with his TCB band and singers. He wasn't just running through hits, he was deconstructing songs, laughing, and showing his total mastery as a musician and band leader. These rehearsals offer perhaps the most authentic, unfiltered look at Elvis the artist at his absolute peak. What happens when the voice meets the king? On September 30, 1965, a young Tom Jones, whose hit It's Not Unusual was climbing the charts, visited the set of Elvis's film Paradise Hawaiian Style. This photo captures their very first meeting. Elvis was a huge fan of Jones's powerful voice, and Tom had idolized Elvis for years. They instantly bonded over their shared love of music, especially gospel. This encounter sparked a genuine, lifelong friendship. They would often hang out in Las Vegas, respecting each other as two of the greatest vocalists of their time. This room was the formal heart of Graceland. This 1963 photo shows the dining room, a space that mixed family life with superstardom. By this time, a teenage Priscilla Bulio was living at the mansion, and this room was the setting for formal dinners with Elvis's father, grandmother, and his entourage. The decor is surprisingly traditional, reflecting his mother Gladys's taste. This room saw quiet family meals and lively dinners with his Memphis Mafia. It remains one of the most personal spaces in the home, a snapshot of his life before his 1968 comeback. When Elvis accepted one of his life's greatest honors, he didn't talk about music, he talked about dreams. On January 16, 1971, he was named one of the 10 Outstanding Young Men in America by the Jaycees. In his heartfelt acceptance speech, he stunned the audience with his humility. He said, "When I was a child, I was a dreamer. I read comic books and I was the hero. I saw movies and I was the hero. So every dream I ever dreamed has come true 100 times." This award, recognizing his philanthropy, deeply moved him. By 1977, life on the road was a grueling routine, as seen in this photo of Elvis and Ginger Alden in a limo. He was on his way to another show, part of a relentless tour schedule. Many fans noted his concerts were often short, sometimes lasting just over an hour. This trend started in Las Vegas, where hotels demanded 2 shows per night, requiring a shorter set. When Elvis returned to touring, this structure largely remained. While some wished for longer performances, the exhausting schedule was his attempt to meet the overwhelming demand from fans across the country. This outfit was not just a costume, it was a statement. The black leather suit, designed by Bill Ballou for the 1968 comeback special, became an instant icon. Originally, it was only one of several planned outfits, but when Elvis put it on for the intimate sit-down segments, director Steve Binder knew he had found the look. It was raw, rebellious, and a powerful throwback to his 1950s roots. The suit was incredibly hot under the studio lights, but Elvis endured it. This single outfit signaled to the world that the polite movie star was gone and the king had returned. This wasn't just a sports facility, it was Elvis's private retreat. This photo shows the lounge and bar area of the racquetball building, one of the last major additions to Graceland, completed in 1975. After a game, Elvis would relax here with his friends. The room features a dark, wet-look leather bar and an upright piano, on which he famously played and sang in his final hours. This building was his ultimate sanctuary, a place to escape the pressures of fame. He spent much of his time here in his last 2 years. This is a glimpse of the artist just before the explosion. In 1955, Elvis Presley was not yet a national icon. He was a hard-working regional act. This rare photo from Texas captures him during a grueling tour schedule with the Louisiana Hayride. He, Scotty Moore, and Bill Black drove thousands of miles, playing high school gyms, flatbed trucks, and small clubs. This was the year he was building his fan base, one electrifying show at a time. It was just before he signed with RCA and released Heartbreak Hotel. This is the image of pure, raw ambition. For thousands of fans, this was the ultimate dream. This photo, taken backstage on June 25, 1974, in Columbus, Ohio, captures a moment of pure joy. Before his performance at the Veterans Memorial Auditorium, Elvis would often hold brief meet and greets. These two lucky women got the chance to pose with their idol, an experience they would never forget. For Elvis, these backstage encounters were a regular part of his touring routine. For the fans, it was a once-in-a-lifetime event. This image perfectly illustrates the personal connection he maintained with his audience. Long before the Memphis Mafia, there were the Lauderdale Kids. This photo shows a teenage Elvis with his friend Buzzy Forbes. They both lived at the Lauderdale Courts, a public housing project in Memphis. This was a formative time for Elvis, from 1949 to 1953. He was a shy kid, often seen carrying his guitar, who felt like an outsider. Friends like Buzzy were part of his early social circle, long before anyone dreamed of the King. This image is a rare look at the boy, not the icon, during his humble beginnings, just finding his style. This snapshot captures Elvis during his high school years, a period of dramatic personal transformation. He's pictured here with Buzzy Forbes, a friend from the Lauderdale Courts housing project. When Elvis first moved there, he was a shy, reserved kid. But by the time he was a senior, he had grown out his sideburns, started wearing flashy clothes from Beale Street, and gained a reputation as a unique personality. This photo is from that pivotal era, showing the emerging rebel style that would soon change the world. He was no longer just a mama's boy, he was becoming Elvis. Amidst one of his busiest professional years, Elvis was also a doting father. This heartwarming photo from July 1970 shows him with his daughter Lisa Marie at Graceland. She was just 2.5 years old. This snapshot was taken during the same period Elvis was in intense rehearsals for his Las Vegas comeback and filming the documentary That's the Way It Is. No matter how demanding his career was, his time at Graceland was often dedicated to his daughter. These moments of quiet family life were a cherished escape, showing the private man behind the superstar. This was a much-needed escape. In May 1968, Elvis and Priscilla took their first real vacation since their wedding, landing in Oahu, Hawaii. Their daughter, Lisa Marie, had been born just 4 months earlier. This trip was a chance to reconnect and relax before the biggest gamble of Elvis's career. He was about to return to California to begin taping his '68 comeback special, a project that would either revive his career or end it. This Hawaiian getaway, seen in this photo, was the calm before the storm, the last moment of peace before his triumphant return. Elvis Presley had a lifelong fascination with law enforcement. This passion was on full display on December 29, 1970, when he returned to his birthplace of Tupelo, Mississippi. This photo captures the moment he was sworn in as an honorary deputy sheriff of Lee County. This was part of a badge-collecting spree for Elvis. Just 8 days earlier, he had his famous meeting with President Richard Nixon, where he was awarded a federal narcotics badge. For Elvis, these badges were more than collector's items. They were symbols of the respect and authority he deeply admired. This was Elvis as he had never been seen before, gritty, bearded, and almost silent. This image is from the 1969 film Charo, his only movie where he does not sing on camera. He plays Jess Wade, a reformed outlaw. Desperate to be taken seriously as an actor, Elvis specifically chose this dramatic, spaghetti western-style role. He grew a beard for the part, a first for him, to add to the character's rugged look. While the film wasn't the critical success he hoped for, it remains a fascinating departure, showing the serious actor he always aspired to be. This photo captures a pivotal moment in Elvis's personal life. He's seen here in Bad Nauheim, Germany, in early 1960 with a 14-year-old Priscilla Beaulieu. He was 25 and preparing to return to America after his 2-year Army service. He had met Priscilla just months before, and their controversial courtship began. As he left Germany, he promised to send for her, a promise he would keep. This image shows the young couple at the very beginning of their long and complex relationship, just before Elvis was discharged and returned to his throne. By 1976, Elvis's touring schedule was relentless, and it was beginning to show. This photo was taken in Odessa, Texas, where he performed on May 30th. This period was marked by concerns over his health, yet he continued to perform for his fans. On stage, he wore his elaborate jumpsuits, including the famous bicentennial suit, and delivered shows filled with his greatest hits. This snapshot, likely of his arrival or departure, captures a moment in the non-stop blur of his final tours, a superstar constantly in motion, trying to please his massive, devoted audience. Even as he was plotting his comeback, Elvis had to fulfill his movie contracts. This photo was taken in late 1968 on the set of The Trouble with Girls. What's remarkable is the timing. His legendary '68 comeback special was filmed in June but wouldn't air until December. In this in-between time, he was back in Hollywood, making another musical. This film, set in the 1920s, was a departure from his usual formula, but his mind was already elsewhere. He was on the verge of his triumphant return to live performing, and this movie was one of the last hurdles. How does the girlfriend of the world's biggest star graduate high school? Very discreetly. This photo marks Priscilla Beaulieu's graduation from Immaculate Conception High School in Memphis in 1963. Elvis, who was 28, did not attend the ceremony. He knew his presence would cause a media circus and steal the spotlight from her and the other students. Instead, he waited for her in his car. Afterwards, he drove her back to Graceland, where he had arranged a private graduation party for her and her family. It was a sign of his respect for her moment. This is the image of a father in profound grief. In September 1977, just 1 month after Elvis's sudden passing, Vernon Presley is seen leaving Graceland. As Elvis's father and the executor of his will, Vernon was suddenly thrust into the center of a massive global event. While dealing with his own personal loss, he was also responsible for managing the estate, the funeral arrangements, and the overwhelming wave of public mourning. This photo captures a somber moment as he navigates his new reality, a patriarch without his famous son, in a home that had suddenly become a monument. Before he was the king, he was just a kid from Hume's High. This photo, taken at a class picnic in 1953, shows an 18-year-old Elvis with his classmate, Rosemary Baracco. This was his senior year. He was known as a polite but different kid, the one who played his guitar at lunch and had famously grown out sideburns. This snapshot was taken just weeks before his graduation. A few months later, he would walk into Sun Records to record a song for his mother, a single act that would set in motion the greatest music career in history. The year 1969 was one of explosive creativity for Elvis, and this Hillcrest home was his California base. After the success of his '68 comeback, he was musically recharged. He had just finished his legendary recording sessions in Memphis, which produced hits like Suspicious Minds and In the Ghetto. This photo captures him at his Beverly Hills house as he was preparing for his next giant leap, his triumphant return to live performing in Las Vegas. He is no longer the movie star. This is the look of the revitalized king, confident and ready to reclaim his stage. This house was the physical proof that Elvis had made it. In 1956, using the royalties from his first #1 hit, Heartbreak Hotel, a 21-year-old Elvis purchased this 4-bedroom home at 1034 Audubon Drive for $40,000. It was the very first house the Presley family ever owned. Until then, they had only lived in public housing and rented apartments. For his parents, Vernon and Gladys, moving in was an incredibly proud moment. This home symbolized their journey from extreme poverty to unbelievable wealth, all thanks to their son's revolutionary talent. His first home became his first fan checkpoint. This photo shows Elvis doing something that defined his early fame, patiently signing autographs for fans at his Audubon Drive home. In 1956, there was no Memphis Mafia and no giant wall. Fans discovered his address, and he would spend hours at the edge of his property talking, signing, and posing for pictures. He was still the polite Memphis boy, accessible to his public. This open access was a hallmark of his time at this house, but it would soon become impossible as his fame grew to unmanageable levels. This is the site that forced Elvis to find a fortress. While he loved his fans, the constant crowds at Audubon Drive quickly became a major problem. As seen here, fans flocked to the neighborhood day and night, camping on his lawn, writing messages on his house, and clogging the street. It was a constant spectacle that overwhelmed his neighbors. Elvis and his family had no privacy. After just 13 months, he knew he had to move. In 1957, he purchased Graceland, a property set far back from the road, protected by a large wall. This modest 4-bedroom ranch-style house became the most famous home in Memphis. Built in 1954, it represented the American dream for the Presley family when Elvis bought it in 1956. It was a world away from the small duplexes and housing projects they were used to. The home featured modern conveniences and a 2-car garage. Its most famous addition was the swimming pool Elvis installed in the backyard, which became the setting for many famous photographs. This house was his first taste of luxury and a symbol of his arrival, before fame demanded the seclusion of Graceland. This photo captures a moment of family pride. Here, Elvis poses with his parents, Vernon and Gladys, in the backyard of their new home in May 1956. For Gladys especially, this house was a dream come true. After a life of poverty, she finally had a beautiful home, bought and paid for by her son. This garden was her sanctuary. These were happy but brief times. Gladys was reportedly uncomfortable with the constant fan attention and missed her old neighbors. This image freezes a rare, peaceful moment for the family as they adjusted to their new and very public life. Even with a nice new house, he was still the rebel. This May 1956 photo shows Elvis on his Harley-Davidson motorcycle, leaving his Audubon Drive home. Motorcycles were a lifelong passion for him, symbolizing freedom and his rebellious image. Just as his music was challenging the establishment, this image of the new, wealthy homeowner on a powerful motorcycle was a potent symbol. He wasn't settling down, he was just getting started. This Harley, and the ones that followed, became a key part of his public persona, mixing his newfound wealth with his rock and roll edge. On May 29, 1956, photographer Alfred Wertheimer was on assignment, capturing Elvis at his Audubon Drive home. This photo is part of that legendary series. Wertheimer was given intimate access, photographing Elvis swimming in his new pool, relaxing with family, and interacting with fans. These images are considered some of the most iconic and authentic ever taken of him. They capture a 21-year-old on the absolute brink of superstardom, still accessible and unguarded. This snapshot is not just a picture, it's a piece of history, freezing the last moments of his normal life. For Vernon and Gladys Presley, this garage represented security they had never known. This photo shows them at their Audubon Drive home, a property bought with their son's success. Vernon, who had struggled to provide for his family and had even served time, was now the patriarch of a wealthy family. Gladys, who had worked low-paying jobs, was now the mistress of a fine home. This house was their reward for years of struggle. This image, showing them in their new, stable environment, is a powerful testament to the life-changing impact of Elvis's career. This is the kindness behind the king. On July 5, 1956, Elvis heard that a 12-year-old fan, Ellen Mincy, had been injured in a car accident. She had been on her way to see his concert in Memphis the day before. Upon hearing the news, Elvis immediately got in his pink Cadillac and drove to St. Joseph's Hospital. This photo captures the moment he surprised Ellen at her bedside. The young, overjoyed fan couldn't believe her idol was there. This unpublicized visit shows the genuine compassion he had for his fans. When the king builds a castle, it needs a proper gate. This photo shows Elvis inspecting the newly installed music gates at Graceland on April 22, 1957. He had just purchased the mansion, and this was one of his first custom additions. Designed by artist Abe Saucer and built by John Dillard, the wrought iron gates, featuring musical notes and a silhouette of Elvis, became an instant landmark. They served a dual purpose, providing much-needed security from the fan crowds while also becoming the iconic symbol of Graceland and the public's primary connection point to their idol. What happens when two global superstars collide? In February 1958, Elvis Presley was filming King Creole at Paramount Studios. By chance, Italian actress Sophia Loren was also working on the lot. A photographer captured their famous first meeting in the studio cafeteria. As the story goes, the charismatic Loren playfully mussed up Elvis's perfect hair, and he responded with a spontaneous kiss. This playful, flirtatious encounter between the king of rock and roll and the queen of Italian cinema was captured in a series of iconic photographs, a classic Hollywood moment. Long before the massive gold and diamonds of the 1970s, this was one of Elvis's first signature pieces. In 1956, he purchased this horseshoe ring, featuring a horse's head surrounded by diamonds. This ring is visible in countless photos from the 1950s and even appeared in his early films like Loving You and Jailhouse Rock. Whether he believed in the good luck symbolism or just liked the design, the ring became part of his image. As his career and his love for horses grew, so did his collection, with this early ring setting the stage for his later, more extravagant jewelry. It started as a normal shift and ended as the story of a lifetime. On September 12, 1957, waitress Aline Clovis Landreau was working at the Little Shamrock Cafe in Cleveland. Suddenly, a black Cadillac pulled up, and Elvis Presley and his band walked in. They were on their way to a show and stopped for breakfast. Aline served the king, who ordered a feast of eggs, bacon, pancakes, chocolate cake, coffee, and Pepsi. A photographer snapped this picture, which Aline cherished for the rest of her life as proof of her famous customer. Growing a beard for a movie role was a big change for Elvis, and it affected his home life. This photo is from the 1968 filming of Charo. While he adopted the gritty, bearded look for the Western, his family was still living with him at his Hillcrest home in Beverly Hills. Priscilla and his young daughter Lisa Marie were there. It was reported that Elvis didn't like the beard, and his family wasn't fond of it either. Even with his new rugged appearance, he would still greet fans at the gates of his home. This is the trio that started the fire. Elvis Presley was the voice and the hips, but his sound was defined by these two men, guitarist Scotty Moore, seen here, and bassist Bill Black. They were session musicians at Sun Records when Sam Phillips paired them with the young singer in 1954. Moore's innovative rockabilly guitar licks and Black's slapping bass were the engine behind That's All Right. Scotty, in particular, was a mentor, his unique style influencing a generation of guitarists. Together, they were the Blue Moon Boys, the team that laid the foundation for rock and roll. This film would define Elvis's connection to Las Vegas forever. This photo, taken on location in July 1963, is from the set of Viva Las Vegas. The movie paired him with his most dynamic co-star, Anne Margaret. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, so powerful that it sparked a real-life romance and reportedly made his girlfriend Priscilla very jealous. The film, filled with great songs and iconic dance numbers, became one of his most beloved movies. It also cemented his status as the King of Las Vegas, years before his legendary live comeback in the same city. In this photo, Elvis is just one of the kids, blending into the crowd. Before fame, he was a regular teenager in Memphis, attending Humes High School and living at the Lauderdale Courts. His classmates would later recall him as a quiet, polite boy, but one who was starting to stand out with his unique style. No one in this picture could have possibly known that in just a year or two, this same young man would become the most famous person on the planet. This snapshot captures a final, fleeting moment of anonymity before his life changed forever. This look is pure 1970s Elvis. He's seen here in his signature high-collar shirt and jacket, likely with a member of his entourage, such as Jerry Schilling or Dick Grob. During this era, Elvis rarely went anywhere without his Memphis Mafia, who served as his friends and 24-hour security. The necklace he's wearing is also symbolic. He often wore a TCB, taking care of business emblem, or other large custom-made jewelry. This candid shot captures the off-stage look of the king, always surrounded by his inner circle, projecting an image of power and style. This is how Elvis Presley was officially presented in his 1953 Humes High yearbook, The Herald. While he was known for his flashy style and sideburns, his official portrait is surprisingly conventional. In his senior year, Elvis was still an outsider to many. He even auditioned for the school's talent show and was reportedly rejected. His classmates had no idea that just 1 year after graduation, he would record his first song at Sun Records. This photo is a fascinating look at the king as just another senior, moments before he changed music forever. Patti Perry holds a unique place in Elvis's story as the only woman considered part of the Memphis Mafia. She was a trusted friend and his hairstylist in Los Angeles. While some tell-all books from the inner circle don't mention her often, her importance is undeniable. Elvis flew her to Hawaii in 1973 for the Aloha special, trusting only her to fix his hair after he was unhappy with how it looked in rehearsal. She remained a close confidant until her marriage in 1975, 2 years before Elvis passed, drifting out of the inner circle. This was not the triumphant King of Las Vegas. This was his first failed attempt. In April 1956, a 21-year-old Elvis played his first ever Vegas engagement at the New Frontier Hotel. He's seen here wearing what's believed to be a Harley-Davidson cap. But the gig was a disaster. The older, sophisticated audience was not impressed by his rock and roll energy. The critics were harsh, and Elvis left town feeling defeated. It's ironic that the city that rejected him so badly in 1956 would later become the city he completely conquered. This photo captures one of the most profound moments of Elvis's life, becoming a father. He is seen here with his newborn daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, in February 1968. Standing with them are Priscilla's father, Captain Paul Beaulieu, and her sister, Michelle. Elvis was famously nervous about holding the baby, but he was overcome with pride. He would later say that the birth of his daughter was the greatest thing that had ever happened to him. This intimate hospital snapshot shows a rare, tender side of the king, surrounded by his new family. When the cameras stopped rolling on Jailhouse Rock, the games began. This 1957 photo shows Elvis with co-star Jennifer Holden, but his mind was often on sports. Elvis was famous for organizing rough touch football games with the cast, crew, and his friends during filming breaks. It was his way of blowing off steam and fighting boredom on the set. These games were highly competitive and a hallmark of his movie-making years. This snapshot captures a lighthearted moment, but it's also a glimpse into his restless energy and love for physical activity. This car was a co-star in its own right. This photo is from the 1967 film Clambake, featuring Elvis with co-stars Susie Kay and Olga Kaya. The vehicle is the stunning 1959 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray Racer, a one-of-a-kind concept car loaned by General Motors for the film. In the movie, Elvis plays a millionaire oil heir who swaps places with a ski instructor. The car was central to the plot, and Elvis, a true car enthusiast, loved driving it. Clambake was one of his last formula musicals before his 1968 comeback. That hat became one of his signature looks in the early 60s. This photo, likely with a fan, was taken during the 1962 filming of Girls, Girls, Girls. Elvis wore this Greek fisherman's cap for his role as Sailor Ross Carpenter, and he loved it so much that he started wearing it offset as well. He was often photographed wearing this exact hat while driving around Los Angeles or heading home to his rented Bellagio Roadhouse. It was a rare case of his movie wardrobe influencing his personal style, and it became an iconic part of his 1960s image. This look defined Elvis's image for the first half of the 1960s. After the colossal success of 1961's Blue Hawaii, the beach movie formula was set. This photo, showing a 26-year-old Elvis, captures the essence of those films: exotic locations, beautiful co-stars, and light-hearted musical numbers. For the next several years, films like Girls, 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 and Fun in Acapulco would follow this blueprint. While these movies were financially successful, they eventually trapped Elvis in a creative rut. This image is a snapshot of that fun in the sun era. Every jumpsuit told a story. This elaborate outfit is the Red Phoenix suit, worn by Elvis during his 1975 and 1976 tours. The design's origin is legendary. Designer Bill Belew had created a zebra suit, but Elvis, looking at the pattern upside down, thought it looked like a bird. Liking the idea, the design was changed to a phoenix, though they kept the original zebra-striped belt. This suit, with its fiery red and gold embroidery, was one of his most striking. It represents the peak of his 1970s stage glamour, a walking piece of wearable art. To understand the man, you have to understand his childhood. This photo, showing Elvis with a full plate of food, is more revealing than it looks. He grew up in extreme poverty in Tupelo. His father, Vernon, recalled times when the family had only a piece of cornbread to eat. This childhood scarcity stayed with Elvis forever, reportedly contributing to his complicated relationship with food in adulthood. He also famously disliked wearing blue jeans, except when required for a movie. He associated them with his poor upbringing, when they were all his family could afford.